There is no clearly defined path to being an athletic director, but Rick George at Colorado has certainly set a new focus, having worked in professional baseball, professional golf, and run a foundation before he became the athletic director at Colorado. With Culture of Sports today, we're here at Boulder to talk to Mr. George about his path and what he sees the future here for the University of Colorado. Mr. George, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you've had a lot of great jobs, but have you ever had the great view of the mountains like you've had in any place
No,
else in any other office?
this by far is the best view that I've had at any job that I've had, and to be able to look over the Flatirons every day and understand the backdrop that we play under every day, it's pretty good.
Now, you played football in high school growing up in Illinois, and then Big Ten, you were in Texas, which is Friday Night Fever. But will anything compare to what's going to happen on Friday, August 31st in Colorado?
That'll be a big day for us, to kick off the season. And, high school and Friday nights are pretty big in Texas, but Friday night in Denver is going to be really good.
Have you ever seen any sporting event compare with the Rocky Mountain Showdown? Now, I was up at Colorado State yesterday interviewing Joe Parker, and he said, no, I'm guessing you're going to have the same answer.
Well, the Showdown is, a great atmosphere, playing in Denver, and that's been good for us. But I happen to think the backdrop here in Boulder is a little bit better than that. And, when we play Nebraska next year at home, you'll see an atmosphere that'll be pretty lively.
Now, do you find this backdrop to be a big help in recruiting and fundraising? You've done spectacularly well in those, too.
Yeah, you can't match the beauty here. We're constantly recognized as one of the top, if not the top, venue in college sports because of the background and the backdrop that we have in our stadium. And it's a great recruiting tool for us. We feel strongly that we get student athletes on our campus and they can see where we're located and the views that we have and the beauty of our community. Our commitment rate goes up pretty significantly.
In terms of being ranked high, the Center for World Universities just released their rankings last week. The University of Colorado was in the top 1%. Did that surprise you?
No, it didn't. I think our academics are strong, and combine that with the athletics that we have and the conference that we're in, I think we've got a pretty good mix here.
Now, the Pac-12 is known as a conference of champions, and they also scored very well in the rankings too. Stanford, UCLA, Berkeley. So what's it like when you guys get together from the Pac-12? I mean, do you compare who's the best academically as well as athletically?
We talk about it a lot. There's a lot of connections from research institutions in our conference, and I think the move for us going from the Big 12 to the Pac-12 has been very good for us. And, we recruit a lot on the West Coast. We have 30,000 living alumni on the West Coast. So I think that mix and where we recruit from works well. So I think being in the conference has been a really good step for us.
Now, Ohio University did a study that showed that the athletic department can enhance the academic reputation of a school by nearly 20%. Do you see that happening here at Boulder?
I do. I think when we're successful in football and basketball and women's basketball and all of our sports, we're broadcast pretty much nationally on the Pac-12 networks and on the different mediums that we're on, whether it's ESPN or Fox. And I think having that kind of exposure nationally enhances our university significantly.
Now, Wallace Lowe, he's the president of the University of Maryland. He used to be the provost at Iowa. He said the athletic department is the front porch of the university. It brands the university for the world. How do you feel about that here at Colorado?
Well, I feel the same way. I think, athletics, the showcase that we can give not only our campus but our community is significant. We're broadcast in Pac-12 is distributed worldwide in some markets. And so I think it really enhances our university and the academic reputation, and I think we contribute a big part of that.
And so do you feel it helps with fundraising, too? You raised well over $100 million for the new center.
Yeah, well, being connected more closely when we can bring our sporting events to the West Coast where we have 30,000 alumni, I think it makes a big difference for us. And so whenever we're out there competing, whether it's basketball or soccer or whatever, we usually have a presence out there from either myself or somebody from our Buff Club interacting with our donors and our alumni to get them excited about what we're doing.
And, it's not just football here. 13 of the 16 teams you have been ranked in the top 25 under your tenure. How do you work so well across the board?
Well, all of our sports are important. We do the same things for football that we do for cross country or soccer and basketball. And so, we make sure that our student athletes are having a great experience. We provide Our meals and our nutrition that we have for our student athletes is excellent. Our academic support, the things that we're doing for all of our student athletes, we don't have one group over another group. We're all doing the same thing.
And one thing that just amazed me, I took a tour before I get here, as I do with every interview, is the 30,000-foot sports enhancement facility you have. I mean, the gait analysis room was mind-boggling. When a freshman sees that, what do they think? What is their thought?
Well, the key thing is, whenever we're visiting with recruits and their parents and they're sitting in my office, I can tell them that there's a place where their son or daughter can get an MRI or an X-ray that's not even 100 feet from where they're studying and where their academics are and perhaps where they're playing. And so, having that high-performance sports facility on the second floor has been great. It's a great connector with the community for us, but it's also great for our parents to understand that, if their son or daughter has any kind of injury, we can know the nature of that injury fairly quickly.
You're obviously connecting with the athletic community. You were selected as Staff Member of the Year by the Student Council. How was that honor come about?
Well, I don't know how it comes about, but I'm very honored by it. We have a lot of interaction with our student athletes, and we've got a tremendous team as part of our staff and coaches that work really well with our student athletes. I think we've created a great culture and an environment, and them awarding me with that was a great honor. And to know that the student athletes appreciate what we're doing for them, I think is important.
And now, when I interviewed Brian Blair with Rice University about how college sports affected his life, he said, when I arrived in college, I was a small-town boy from Chickaw, South Carolina. He said, when I graduated, I was a man ready to take on the world. What was the impact of college sports on you? You played Big Ten football.
Well, I wouldn't be here today, that's for sure. I was one of the first from a family of 8 that went to college, and the only way I was able to go to college was through the scholarship that I received from the University of Illinois, and that experience really helped shape me. And being involved in college and professional athletics all my career has been a blessing, but it's really helped me grow as a person, and it's helped me grow as an administrator as well.
And how do you see the student athletes here changing at the University of Colorado? You're obviously very close to them when they first come in as freshmen and leave with a degree from a top 50 university. What changes do you notice?
Well, obviously the maturity is a big piece. And, today it's a lot different than it was when I was here. The social media has really had an impact on a lot of the students and their experiences on campus. We're dealing with mental health issues more so than we ever did 20, 30 years ago, maybe longer than that when I played. But I think the thing that we're focused on is we're focused on the personal well-being of our student athletes. And if we keep that in focus, I think when our student athletes matriculate through their experience in college, I think we're going to set them up for a career after athletics. And, let's face it, very few percentage of our student athletes go pro. So we're really focused on what we're doing while they're here with internship opportunities, mentorship programs, and leadership programs that allow them to take that next step.
Speaking of the few percentage of student athletes who do go pro, I was at the Knight Commission event in D.C. where Mark Emmert, the head of the NCAA, talked about a study that showed that about 75% of college basketball players at the D1 level think they're going to make the NBA. 50% at the D2 level think they're going to make the NBA. And my personal favorite, 25% of the D3 players think they're going to make the NBA, even though there is no D3 player in the NBA at this time. But when do you think the light bulb goes off in their head and they realize, hey, I'm at the University of Colorado. It's ranked 50th in reputation, 40th in influence in the world. I'm getting a great education. It's time to focus on a business career.
Look, it hit me after my sophomore year. I realized that, a slow defensive back's not going to play in the NFL, so I figured that out fairly quickly. But, I think by the sophomore, junior year, I think it kind of clicks in on whether they believe they can go to that next level. But regardless of that, our responsibility is to make sure that we get them the right education, that we graduate them, and that we have meaningful opportunities once they graduate from our university. And whether they go pro or not, our responsibility is to get them graduated in a meaningful program and give them opportunities beyond graduation.
Have you noticed more and more coming to you and saying, Mr. George, how do I go about becoming a college athletic director? How do I follow in your footsteps?
I do, and part of my responsibility is also to mentor some of our student athletes and to help them, get to where they want to go. But I see a lot of student athletes, and I see a lot of students in general that want to be in this industry. And let's face it, being in college athletics is one of the great jobs that I've ever had in my life because of the interaction that you have with young people, and you still have impacts on their lives and potentially their careers in the future.
And do you see more females coming up to you and asking you how to become an athletic director? After all, Dr. Carla Williams, she was just hired at UVA, which was a huge event in college sports world. So are more asking you about a career in college sports administration?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I've had a lot of females come in here and ask about, how do I become an AD and what are the steps that I need to take to be able to do that. And, a good friend, Nikki Moore, just got the job at Colgate, being an associate AD at North Carolina. And I think we're seeing a lot more women in leadership positions, and I think you're going to see more and more of that as we move forward.
Now, if I were to ask you, what represents a University of Colorado student athlete to you, how would I see that person?
Well, I mean, you could take a Jenny Simpson or an Emma Coburn, who both won Olympic bronze medals in the last Olympics in distance, one in the steeplechase and the other in the mile run. And the way they've really portrayed our university and how they brought that into the conversation of their success and the way they live their lives and the work that they're doing, I think is significant. And those would be two great examples. We got Danny Jones, who's an All-American here, who just won the Prefontaine Classic, and she's an accomplished student. She's an accomplished athlete, and I think she's having a great experience on our campus. And I mean, those are just three examples. I could give you hundreds more. And our female student athletes are really doing well. Our programs are doing well in our female sports, and we're really raising the bar on those. And, I think it's because we've got a great environment and we've got great coaches and staff. We all on the same page on where we want to go, not just athletically, but where we want to go academically and to help them in their future endeavors.
Now, Joe Harrington used to coach basketball here. He told me he would use the football games as a recruiting tool to bring the recruits in early for that. What other aspects here do you use? Coming from the Midwest, I mean, do you ever just walk around and look at the mountains like I do when I'm in Colorado?
Yeah, I do every day. I feel good about, our community and what we have. But, there's so many great things about Colorado. We talk about the academic piece and the national reputation that we have there. We talk about the backdrop, but we also got a great community that's safe. It's a health-conscious community. There's a lot of outdoor activities. There's hiking a mile away from where we're sitting today that student athletes and students in general can take part of. And so just the whole ambiance and the whole community that we have around Boulder and our campus is really attractive to a lot of people, and it's attractive to a lot of parents and student athletes. Some of them come here and ski in the winters, and some of them come here to hike in the summers. And so
it's no hard duty coming to visit your child at the University of Colorado.
No, it's not.
Sure.
And and it's interesting. We get a lot of those parents that do come here, and when their students are here on campus, and some of them end up moving here, and you see a lot of that in Boulder.
Now, Heather Light, the athletic director at the University of Pittsburgh, when I interviewed her, she said her favorite part of the job was interacting with the families and taking someone else's child and raising them through a very critical period from a teenager to an adult. What's your favorite part of being an athletic director?
Well, my favorite part of being an athletic director is obviously the interaction with the student athletes. I love it. It's part of what we do. One of our student athletes came back with an idea that we're going to create this forum that the student athletes can come to you, and we'll do this once a month, and they call it Rockin' with Rick. And it was something that we got from Maryland when Kevin Anderson was there, when they call it Kicking with Kevin. And it's an opportunity for the student athletes and myself, just us, to talk about whatever issue they want to talk about, no agenda.
What are the main issues they bring up?
We talk about some of the political divide around the country and some of the divisive issues that are going out there. We talk about social issues. We talk about NCAA things. We talk about, we need more food. We need this, but we have great candid conversation. And the best part of it is just having that interaction, doing things that make their experience better. And I tell our staff all the time, if you can't come to work in a college athletic department, passionate every day about serving these young people, you're in the wrong place, because it's so great to have this interaction with the men and women that come to school here, and it's the best part of the job by far.
Now, I taught at the University of Iowa last semester, and I had 3 varsity athletes in my class, and their only complaint about the athletic experience at the University of Iowa was that the guacamole was not chunky enough from the fueling station. What's the main complaint here?
Well, I'm gonna make sure I tell Gary that he needs to get better guacamole,
Well,
and I can give him a few recommendations on that.
But you've been spoiled on guacamole here in Colorado.
Yeah, you're right. We have, because it's fresh and it's great. But, look, our student athletes, what do I hear the most? Obviously, hey, can we get better parking, or can we, things like that. But there's nothing, I don't think that I think our student athletes are getting the things that they need to be successful. One of the areas that we're really focused on, and I know a lot of my peer institutions are focused on, is the mental health piece. Our student athletes would tell you that it's the only injury you can't take a day off from. And so we've got a real emphasis in what we're doing at CU to make sure that we're talking about mental health, and that we're being proactive in our messaging, and that we're providing resources for our student athletes who struggle. I mean, today, with the social media, you can play a game and, you get criticized, in real time online, and our student athletes see that, and the pressures that they have anyway are tough. But then to see that, and we didn't deal with that when I was playing years ago, and I think it's an area that I know we're focused on. I know the NCAA is really focused on the mental health piece, and that's an area that we're going to focus a lot of our efforts on.
Now, when you played for Illinois, you obviously had a very positive experience. You were a starter, and you went to work for the university after you graduated. But how are the athletes treated better now than when you were playing?
Well, there's so many things that we're getting today. The full cost of attendance was one. The meals legislation that the NCAA put in place has been instrumental. The academic support that we give them, the support that we give them in our sports medicine area. We've got 2 sports nutritionists down there. Laura Anderson's phenomenal, but she really looks after the meals. We're doing our own sustainable snacks. We didn't have that when I was playing, and what we're doing with the number of trainers that we have in our staff, clinical psychologists. There's just a lot of things, chiropractors, masseuses. There's a lot of things today
And the student athletes all get this for free?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they do, and then the academic support that we have, and we have an individual academic plan for every student athlete. We didn't have that. We didn't have the resources in our athletic department when I was playing to be able to provide those services to our student athletes. And so, I think we're doing a lot to make sure that their experience is well-rounded and well done.
When you were at Illinois, you recruited the #1 class in the country for the first time. How did you pull that off? You didn't have the mountains?
No, we didn't have the mountains, and look, back in those days, it was hard work. We didn't have the social media. It was handwritten notes. It was getting out there. The recruiting time periods were a little bit different. We could basically travel from August till the end of, to the middle of February. Almost every day. I was on the road probably 4 or 5 days a week. We had a good system in place. We brought that system to Colorado in '87. We had a little success. We won a national championship in '90-91 season. So, I think we just, I worked for a great guy, Gary Horton, who really helped me understand the business, and, we just worked hard.
When did you decide to go into college sports administration?
When Jerry DiNardo left to go to LSU to be the head coach there from Vanderbilt, I said, I'm not following the coach anymore. I'm going to get in administration. I'm tired of these 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. jobs, and decided at that point to stay at Vanderbilt and to really learn the business. And that started, a long time ago now.
Now, the winner of the William V. Campbell Trophy, called the Academic Heisman, said he wants to be an athletic director. Did that surprise you this year?
No, it didn't surprise me. Look, we had a William Campbell Trophy winner here, Jim Hansen, who was a player on our national championship team, and he's doing some great things. And, this is a great industry to be in. You've got great student athletes that you're interacting with, alumni. It's sport, and sport is a great industry to be in, to be around. I mean, part of our job is to go into games and supporting our athletes. Now, that's a really good deal. And I know when I was with the Texas Rangers, I sat behind home plate and I got to watch, and somebody call and say, "What are you doing?" I'm at work. And I said, "Well, I'm at work too, but I'm watching a baseball game."
Hey, speaking about working here in the student-athlete experience, Game Plan, which is in the athletic service industry, they just did a study that found out that 96.2% of college student-athletes had a very positive experience and would do it again. Looking at the margin error, that basically says 100%. Does that surprise you?
A little bit, because, one of the things that we talk about is creating a world-class experience for our student-athletes. When we're not delivering that, we need to know that. And our student athletes have been pretty good about saying, okay, here's an area where that, I think we're failing or that we're not doing that right job. So 96% is a pretty high percentage. And I'm glad that we're doing that.
But you're not going to be happy till it's 100%?
Well, look, we want everybody to have a great experience. We know that's going to be very difficult to do. But if we come to work every day, our staff and our coaches come to work every day to try to provide this world-class experience, at some point we'll achieve it.
I think in that study, it showed where you guys were doing even better than you realized, because it showed that the most difficult thing for a student athlete was adapting to life after college. I think it's because of how well you guys treat them in the whole college student athlete experience. Having been a college athlete, how do you feel?
I agree with that. I do think sometimes we do a lot for our student athletes, and I think one of the things that we're trying to refocus on is how do we help them get to coming in as a freshman, leaving where everybody's cheering them on, telling them how great they're doing,
Yes.
to getting them to go into the next phase in their life and that job that is going to be impactful for them. And so what we're trying to do is take a step backwards, really focus in helping them with personal development and career development. So when they do leave and the lights are off
Yes.
and they're in,
In the stands rather than on the sideline.
right, in stands and sideline, that we're preparing them better. And, we don't have all the answers yet, but we're going to certainly focus on that area as well.
Last question, we're going to
Sure.
interrupt with Friday, August 31st. Are you going to be able to bring Ralphie into the stadium?
We do every year. Yes, she always kicks off our year. And,
Will it be anything like coming out of the Thunder shoot here?
it's pretty good because the atmosphere is pretty good down there in Denver. And, but there's nothing better than having Ralphie come out at night with the flat irons in the background in Boulder, Colorado.
I look forward to that experience.
Yes.
Thank you for having me
All right,
today.
Jonathan, thank you.
This is Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports from the University of Colorado. Thank you for joining us.